Under the Hood with Dimitri and Mustafa.
Gas prices go up. I'm seeing that my cash is not able to do what it was doing pre-COVID. So,
Yep.
how is that going for you as far as decisions? Is it, with everything
Well,
that's
yeah,
happening?
same thing. I mean, fortunately, I work at home,
Mm.
and have been working at home for many years. So, my, my fuel consumption has been quite low. I would, compared to most people. So, in terms of that, it hasn't affected me. And,
I could tell you
fuel is,
working from home with the
yeah.
beard grown mass.
Well, the thing is, Mustafa, from an economic perspective that fuel prices are very inelastic,
Yeah,
right? If you
yeah,
remember that term,
yeah.
that means
Inelastic
that, yeah, that means
elasticity.
that it just doesn't matter what the price of it is. The
Yeah,
demand pretty much remains the same. Why
yeah,
is that? Because most people get in their automobile because they have to go somewhere.
yeah.
And I had read an article many years ago that said, and I'm sure it has changed because, the world has changed and our lifestyles have changed. But I'd read an article many years ago that said 95% of fuel consumption was for automobile use to and from work.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Monday through Friday, where are people going in their cars? They're
Yep.
going to work and going home. That's it. I
Traffic.
mean,
Traffic.
yeah, they're not running around. So, and today we had a
Yeah.
pretty significant price increase to oil. And that's really scary. We certainly don't want to see
Yeah.
that because what does that mean? More inflationary
But
pressures.
but I'll say
Okay.
COVID did kind of change that for me. I mean, when COVID started to take place, I started working from home more. I know you were working from home prior to that. I started working from home more, and I think I probably spent, I don't know, 1,000, or actually no, I should go based on annual. So about 2,500, 3,000 in gas.
Yeah, fuel.
COVID 2020, my fuel consumption went down, right? And
Yeah.
2021, barely drove. 2022, started to do some driving. For most people, yeah, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be a demand. But I think COVID kind of,
Oh, yeah.
for a lot of us, yeah.
Yeah, when you pull out having to drive to work and, back and forth from work, I mean, that's a huge,
Yeah.
huge decline I mean, look at even here in the state of California. I know the government's been crying because number one, we got, push for electric vehicles, which don't consume fuel, which means that the local governments aren't getting their taxes from fuel, right? Fuel taxation, fuel surcharges. And then on top of it, you have demand for fuel, that's way down because so many people are
Mm.
working from home, telecommuting. So,
Mhm.
but it's nice. I mean, in terms of quality of life, I think it's many people appreciate it being home. They've gotten used to it. I remember early on, Mustafa talking to some colleagues and how much they hated it. And then about 6 months, didn't take long, 6 months into it, I approached them with the same question. They said, "Man, I'm never going back in the office." Um, Now we're starting to see, some companies require employees to come to return to the office. I think there's actually a big outcry at Amazon right now. Is it
Yeah.
Amazon where they're protesting it? I think they have signed a bunch of petitions to try to keep them from going back. I saw that Google now is doing a shared office.
Hmm.
So, for example, you and I would share an office. You'd go in Monday, Wednesday. I'd go in Tuesday, Thursday.
A lot of
So,
companies are set up like that. Yeah.
oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's whatever. I mean, hey, it's whatever you like to do. But I think these large corporations have to be extremely careful with how they maneuver around this change because a lot of
Sure.
people love working at home. They're used to it now. They've set up
Yeah.
office spaces.
Man, let
Um,
me just tell you my best year, and when I say most productive year was 2022 working from home.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
saying, extremely motivated. I was one of those guys you're talking about that didn't want to work from home, would prefer going into the office. But working from home definitely changed my mind state about work, and certain activities about how I handle clients and service, service them. But yeah, I would say most productive. But then again, I am quite aware of some of the company concerns because sometimes it does lead to less productivity, or because certain people do choose. In economics, we have that term shirking. Do you remember that? Or shirk? That's where I learned it. Shirk. You got two guys holding a table and moving it to another part of the room, and then you got that third guy that just put a finger on it. He's barely doing anything, but he's somehow contributing to society. And so you're always going to have those people that are, shirking, and so I see the concern, and I don't know how they eyeball or find those guys, but or gals, but yeah, I think it worked out very well for me. And
well, okay, man. Now you got a family.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I got responsibilities. I think that's the thing. I got my little baby, and
yeah, and it's nice to be home.
Maybe that's why, being home, working from home, being more motivated, and wanting to be productive, probably because, responsibilities, you're thinking ahead. But yeah, I think everything that's happening in the economy is impacting us in some way. I find it quite interesting that when I go on YouTube and I Google, YouTube the economy, and I find all these videos that were done in the last week, and I see like 20,000 views, 5,000 views, 20 views, 10 views, and I just sit there and I go, are people just not in it? They're not concerned how any of this impacts them and their family? Are they not concerned about the short term, the long term impacts of or implications of everything that's happening? The free money that you're getting is causing 10 other issues that you may not be aware of. It's just very surprising. I don't know how a video of a guy that falls and farts is getting 10 million clicks, but and you find that funny too, but a video about something that impacts your day-to-day life and could improve it, people are just not, I don't know if there's really, people are just not concerned, or they're not realizing where this ship is going.
Yeah, I think, Mustafa, too, here in the United States, we've become very soft, right? Mm-hmm. We've got a tremendous amount of social programs. We have a lot to fall back on. And the concern of the individual is not what it was 20, 30, 40, 50, plus years ago. How many of these people that are being laid off have a plan? Mm-hmm. Have they ever formulated a plan that, hey, I've got 20,000 in the bank, I'm going to be okay? Or, have they thought about what their next step is, what their next job is going to be? What are they? It seems like the planning, it has gone to the wayside over the course of, essentially the 21st century. And I think a lot of these younger generations, they just don't have the fear because they've never experienced it, as of late. And they're not planning. Look at, you and I talked about these GoFundMes. People are raising money for their dog because the dog's got leukemia, and it's like we got other people here in the United States that are digging in trash cans for a peach pit, right, to survive. So, you've got that dynamic going on in this country, and I think the fear the fear level is very low, and a lot of people say, hey, I'll rely on unemployment, maybe I got a few bucks, but you wonder how these $150,000 tech employees are going from receiving a $10,000+ check every month to getting $1,600 from the state. How are they surviving? Are they able to stay in their apartment? Are they able to continue affording their home? And that's what we're going to see here in the third and fourth quarter of this year as layoffs continue to mount. We're going to see some deterioration in the housing market. We're going to see some foreclosures. We're going to see more repossessions with automobiles in particular, because automobiles have already become very unaffordable for most people. And when you lose your job, good luck making an $850 a month house payment when you have to feed your family and do everything else that's required to survive in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of what I'm honing in on is I'm waiting for that next big shoe to drop. What's going to be the next shoe to drop? What's going to happen? And the thing is, that's going to affect all of us. But it seems like here in America, until it affects you, you're not really worried about it.
Look, things are extremely expensive. I'll say right now, in my current house that I live in, I was thinking about, okay, maybe I need to sell this house, move to another house that's a little newer, more central to everything because we our family's growing, and I'm looking at my payment right now, what I pay in my mortgage. It's a lot. It's probably for the size that I'm looking for, it's probably half of what you would be paying in rent, as of today. And so for me, if I sell my house and I move into a house and rent, I'm going to be paying twice or maybe 2.5 times what I'm paying right now for my mortgage. And if I sell my house and I buy another house, the other house that I buy is going to cost me, based on the size I need, probably 2.5 million here in San Diego. So I'm kind of like, all right, well, we're just gonna continue living where we're living because it's within my current within my purchasing power, right? Sure. And I can afford to live here, and we'll figure things out hopefully when things improve down the road. But then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about, if I can't afford it, how are other people affording, paying so much in rent? It's just amazing that, I got friends and relatives that pay so much in rent, and I just don't know how they do it. It just amazes me,
Yeah. I was reading an article I should share with you about the housing market, and really what's driving up these prices is Wall Street. I mean, Wall Street is just eating up housing developments. They're buying houses by the hundreds of thousands.
Wall Street?
Really, oh yeah. I mean, I'll send you this article, man. The hedge funds are buying up huge tracts of housing, that's what's driven up the housing market over the last 10, 15 years since the Great Recession, man.
Yeah. I've seen I think, was it BlackRock was buying out a big plot. Well, I call it a plot, but it was basically an entire, I don't know, I need my wife here to walk me through this, but in real estate, they have all these terms. I don't know, subdivision so it was an entire block of homes, and apparently BlackRock bought that entire block. So the purchaser was BlackRock. I want to say it was BlackRock. I could be wrong, but it was a hedge fund. They bought it all, and the value just shot up. So which explains, kind of going back to what you're saying. I didn't know that that's a very heavy game among all the hedge fund companies. I just knew of BlackRock. So interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing that with housing. We're seeing that with water. Hedge funds are buying up water rights, and what they're doing is they're buying land, which come with water rights, and they're indirectly purchasing water rights through the purchase of land, and they're just sitting on it. Why? Because they know ultimately, water is becoming a scarce resource, and they're going to be able to capitalize on that. Same thing with housing, and it's a little scary, man. I mean, how much higher can we see? I mean, look, I don't know what the average mortgage is, and here in California, we're kind of an anomaly, right? I mean, housing prices are through the roof. We're one of the only states or maybe the only state that 50% of our incomes are go towards our mortgage or our rental payments or expenses each and every month. So it kind of makes you wonder. I mean, who can afford, Mustafa? Like you were saying, if you're a college graduate starting a new family here in California, how can you afford $1 million house? I mean, where do you even find the $200,000 to put down to be able to become eligible right? Or become approvable to purchase a house. I mean, and then you've got an $800,000 mortgage in a 6% rate environment. You figure out the monthly payment. I mean, I've got to assume, what is that? Over $5,000, 6,000 a month? I mean, where are
Yeah.
these people? Where's everybody getting the money for this and think you're just out of college, or even if you've been working for 10 years, you're not making $300,000 combined income.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. So,
Tough.
Wall Street's buying these houses, they're renting them out. And I really believe that over the course of the next decade, we're going to see more families renting. And we're even going to see that in the automobile space where people just can't afford cars, and we're going to see ride sharing. And that's why I think, this whole work from home situation is actually going to make sense, because we may not be able to get to work because
Yeah.
the prices are so restrictive, meaning
Yeah.
fuel and automobiles.
You
I mean,
know,
look at insurance. Insurance is one of the areas that has seen a tremendous amount of inflationary pressure. Why?
yeah.
Because they're just going to follow the herd, right? Insurance is one of those things that what you need. So it's just like fuel. It's very inelastic, the
Yep.
demand curve. So
Yep.
it doesn't matter what the price is, the demand for insurance is going to continue to remain approximately the same.
The only difference compared to the oil is if you own a car, you're kind of basically you're forced to have insurance. If you don't have
That's
insurance,
true.
your vehicles you have to register as non-operable or whatever, and and so
Yeah.
that's a. I mean, in my opinion, that's almost like we talk about monopolies in my economics class. It's almost like they kind of got a monopoly on you, even though it's a little different. I may need to go into that a little more, because you can go to any other insurance company, but in a sense, just that industry alone, like there's nothing you can do to get away from it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna own a car, you have to have insurance, and yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen my home mortgage insurance go up quite a bit. And the sad part is whenever you need something, even, I mean, I'm going to be complaining to you and venting. When you start having slab leaks and all these issues, it's like they don't cover anything. They don't
Yeah.
they don't reward you for your being alert and catching things quick. They reward you for being lazy. And I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just saying that's what
Yeah.
if you're not alert and you're not paying attention to things and your house floods because of a slab leak and your walls are all damaged, you probably have a better chance of getting coverage. But if you're alert and you're catching all your issues ahead of time, good luck in coverage, because your walls need to be wet. I had one slab leak, in right around Thanksgiving Day last year. I just had another one recently. I already knew how this game is played. My second slab leak that happened, I caught it again very early, and I took care of it and paid for it out of pocket. Did not even file an insurance claim because I said I already know how the game is played. They're going to
Yeah,
come
that's
check my
crazy.
wall. If there's no moisture in the wall, they're not going to cover it. So I rerouted my pipes and had a good plumber. Speaking of plumbers, that's probably a safe-proof business because there's, talking about Inelastic, there's always a need for plumber if you own a
Oh,
home or if
yeah.
you rent a home. But I was going to tell you something. You mentioned the water rights, right? Have
Yeah.
you heard of this company called Free Water?
No, I have not.
Dude, so maybe I need to look into a little more, but it is the world's first free beverage company.
Huh.
Yeah, so what they do is they offer free water in those bottles. We used to talk about this, like, just look at how insane the world is. They take the free water, they put it in a bottle, put a label on it, and they sell it to you for $2, right? And then they put all kinds of names in there, like Fiji water or
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
water, and
Make
it
it sound
sounds
fancy.
very cool.
Marketing,
Yeah.
marketing,
But
marketing.
Free Water is a new type of company that makes money by printing advertisements onto aluminum bottles and paper cartons of natural spring water, which then allows them to give it away for free. leading the way, leading what they call the giving economy. They also donate 10 cents per beverage to build water wells for people in need. I mean, honestly, if what I'm reading is true, I'd probably invest when I say invest, not for ROI purposes, but invest quite a bit of time in helping this company grow, because
Yeah, that's
I don't
interesting.
know
I
what the
haven't
future
heard of
would
it.
look like with people holding water rights, and then it's like you're reminding me of that movie. I forgot the name, Waterworld or something like that, where they were
Yeah.
fighting over water, and water was like oil. I
Yeah.
mean, just
And that's
imagine.
what's going to happen. And that, listen, you got to follow the money, right? Wall Street knows. If hedge funds are buying, vast amounts of land for the water rights and they're just sitting on it, that they're just waiting for that time when it makes sense from an
Mhm.
investment perspective to mine that water on those lands that they own, and they're able to turn around and make a profit by selling it to you and I. I
But
mean,
how long are
that's
they
the,
going to
the
sit on that
ultimate goal.
water? How long are
Well,
they?
Mustafa, the thing is, these all these hedge funds, they're just research shops. So I mean, they've done all the analysis. They probably have, a good idea of what year that's going to be
Mhm.
based on what's going on, from an environmental perspective,
Mhm.
from a population growth perspective. They're taking into account all those variables and making a determination. And then what they're doing is they're going out there and they're raising funds based
Yeah.
on those mathematic calculations, and they're going out to the investing public and saying, hey, in 10 years we're going to be able to take your $1 million investment that's going to allow us to purchase 100,000 acres out in the desert in Arizona, and we'll be able to turn that money into double that money 5 years later. I
Mhm.
mean, they've got all the, and they go out and market it, right, and sell it.
Yeah.
No different than anybody else. So I don't know exactly all the specifics, but that's typically how it works. And they've modeled this stuff out, so they know that the water is going to be valuable enough one day. It's just like, look, offshore oil drill, right? That
Yeah.
was huge for many, many years. It's still sizable.
Yeah.
But after fracking was developed, that technology, right, using high pressure
Yeah.
water, to get to oil that is buried far beneath the Earth's surface. You saw a quick mobilization where all these major oil exploration companies out here, out in the Midwest, just digging up, the land for oil, and they're able to make that oil, that exercise of fracking, they were able to make it profitable.
Yeah.
So that's where we moved away from the oil rigs on back to the dirt, which that's where we got oil from originally.
Mhm.
And this is the same thing. We're just waiting. There's waiting until the opportunity. Look, man, what's your water bill like?
Yeah.
I mean, it
That's
goes up every. What's your electric bill like? So
yeah.
they know.
Yeah, I
They,
pay
they,
about
they,
250 water bill,
yeah,
but
they
we
look at the
waste a lot of
history.
water. But it's interesting because then it goes back to that whole. I've always said, I think humans should always have access to free water, but if they're going to buy all these land and water rights, and then eventually capitalize on it, and say some genius finds a way to make it more efficient to where we can convert, because I know already we're able to convert ocean water to fresh water, but it probably takes a long time. But but then again, someone would invest into that technology, and if they did, then pretty much that whole idea of everyone is entitled to free water goes out the window, because it costs money to convert ocean water to fresh water. Or I mean, that would probably help, but again, it would be like the oil, right? Or maybe some, I don't know, commodity where there's all this competition going back and forth, and you're seeing prices fluctuate eventually. So
Yeah, I mean, look, the water prices have to reach a figure for desalination, which is what you're referring to when
mhm.
you take, salty water and you convert it to drinkable water. That process is called desalination. There are a couple companies out there that I'm quite familiar with
Mm,
that are in that business.
mm.
And they've kind of just, done okay here
Yeah,
and there. They've set up a few plants here and there. A lot of these islands out in the
yeah,
Caribbean require it because they just don't have access to water.
yeah,
But they pay a whole heck of a lot for water out there.
yeah.
So, but these companies will capitalize. Like you said, your bill's 250. In 2 years, it's going to be 300, and then it's going to be 400. And then it's going to make sense to build a desalination plant off the coast of California here, and because they can make money. So,
Yeah.
that's where you got it right. I mean, it's all about, is it profitable? If it's profitable, we do it. If it's not profitable, we forego it or we wait.
Or
And
they'll
that's the
come up
whole,
with a policy that'll say desalination is illegal.
yeah. Yeah, who knows?
Prohibited desalination, and then 100
Yeah.
years later, like the marijuana, legalized desalination. I'm just saying, who
Yeah.
knows? But that's very striking to me that these hedge funds are buying water rights. I did not know that again, there's so many things we just don't know, and I'm glad you're more informative and always paying attention to what's going on out there. And I think this episode of Under the Hood, in my opinion, has been very enlightening for me. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, hey, I mean, listen, you got to follow the money.